The dust particles danced in the afternoon sunlight, streaming through the attic window, as I carefully opened the old wooden chest that had belonged to my great-great-grandmother. What I found inside would shatter everything I thought I knew about my family's history and reveal a secret so dark, so forbidden, that it had been buried for over 130 years. Hidden beneath layers of moth-eaten clothing and yellowed photographs, my fingers touched something unexpected. A bundle of letters tied with black ribbon, and beneath them, a diary with pages so fragile they seemed ready to crumble at the slightest touch. The first entry was dated December 15th, 1892, and the words written in fading ink would change my understanding of who we really are forever. This is not just a story about my family. This is a story about love that society deemed unforgivable, about the price of breaking unspoken rules in a world where hatred could kill, and about how fear can force an entire bloodline into silence that spans generations. What you're about to hear has never been told before, because until now, no one dared to speak it. The first letter I opened was addressed to someone named Eleanor Patterson, dated January 3rd, 1893. The handwriting was elegant but shaky, as if written in great distress. It began simply, "My dearest Eleanor, if you are reading this, then I am already gone and you must never speak of what we shared." Eleanor Patterson. The name meant nothing to me initially, but as I continued reading, pieces of a terrifying puzzle began to emerge. The letter spoke of secret meetings, of a love that had to be hidden from the world, and of growing dangers that threatened not just a writer, but everyone connected to them. I discovered that Eleanor Patterson was my great-great-grandmother's maiden name, before she married into our family and became Eleanor Whitfield. But the letters weren't from her future husband. They were from someone named Samuel, someone whose very existence had been erased from our family history, so completely that not even a photograph remained. The letters painted a picture of rural Georgia in 1892, a place where cotton fields stretched endlessly under brutal summer suns, where wooden churches stood as monuments to both faith and judgment, and where the color of your skin determined not just your place in society, but whether you lived or died. Samuel's letters revealed a truth that would have been not just scandalous, but deadly. He was a black man and Eleanor was white. In that era, in that place, their love was more than forbidden. It was a crime punishable by death, not through any court of law, but through the swift and terrible justice of community that would not tolerate such a transgression. The letters spoke of stolen moments in the woods behind the old Miller farm, of meetings arranged through coded messages left in hollow trees, and of a love so pure and desperate that they were willing to risk everything for it. But as I read deeper into the correspondence, the tone changed. Fear crept into Samuel's words like shadows at dusk. "They know about us, Eleanor," one letter read. "I've seen men watching the house. We can't meet anymore. It's not safe." The final letter in the bundle was different from the others. It was shorter, written in what appeared to be great haste, and the paper was stained with what looked suspiciously like dried blood. The diary I found beneath the letters belonged to Eleanor herself, and its pages revealed a love story that would have made Shakespeare weep. Eleanor Patterson was 19 years old in 1892, the daughter of a moderately prosperous farmer who owned 160 acres outside Augusta, Georgia. She was considered beautiful by all accounts, with auburn hair that caught fire in sunlight and green eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of forest. Samuel Washington was 22, born free just after the Civil War to parents who had been enslaved on a plantation 30 miles south. He could read and write, rare for a black man in that time and place, having been taught by a northern missionary who had come south during Reconstruction. He worked as a carpenter and was known throughout the county for his skill with wood and his quiet dignity. Their first meeting was accidental. Eleanor had been riding her horse through the woods when a sudden storm forced her to seek shelter in an abandoned cabin. Samuel had been there already, taking refuge from the same storm while traveling between job sites. In any other circumstance, such a meeting would have ended with polite nods and careful distance. But something sparked between them in that dim cabin while thunder rolled overhead and rain hammered the roof. Eleanor's diary entries from those early days are filled with wonder and confusion. She wrote about Samuel's gentle manner, his intelligence, and the way he spoke to her not as a white woman to be deferred to, but as an equal human being worthy of genuine conversation. For a young woman raised in the rigid social structure of the post-Civil War South, this was a revelation. Their meetings continued in secret. They would rendezvous in the old cabin, or sometimes at the edge of the swamp where few people ventured. Samuel would bring books, and they would read together. Eleanor taught him about poetry, and he shared stories his grandmother had told him about Africa, passed down through generations of slaves who refused to let their heritage die. But love in 1892 Georgia was not just about two hearts finding each other. It was about survival. Eleanor's diary reveals that they both understood the magnitude of the risk they were taking. She wrote about the lynchings that had occurred in neighboring counties, about black men who had been murdered for crimes as simple as looking at white women the wrong way, and about white women who had been ostracized or worse for crossing racial lines. Yet they couldn't stay away from each other. Eleanor wrote about Samuel's hands, callous from his work, but gentle as butterfly wings when he touched her face. She described the way he looked at her, not with a mixture of desire and ownership she had seen in the eyes of her white suitors, but with genuine tenderness and respect. By the autumn of 1892, their secret meetings had become something more serious. Eleanor's diary entry from October 15th reveals a truth that would seal their fate. I told Samuel today what I have known for weeks. We're going to have a child. He held me while I cried, not from shame, but from fear of what this means for all of us. We think about what we've uncovered so far. Could you imagine the terror and desperation these two young people must have felt, knowing their love could cost them their lives? Share your thoughts in the comments about how far you would go for love, even when society tells you it's forbidden. The first threat came in the form of a dead crow nailed to Eleanor's bedroom window. She found it on a cold November morning, its black feathers ruffled by frost, its dead eyes staring accusingly into her room. There was no note, no explanation needed. In the rural South of 1892, everyone understood the meaning of such a message. Eleanor's diary entries from this period reveal a young woman gripped by increasing terror. She wrote about strange sounds outside her window at night, about feeling watched whenever she left the house, and about her father's growing suspicion regarding her frequent absences and obvious distress. The pregnancy was beginning to show, and she knew it was only a matter of time before questions would be asked that she couldn't answer. Samuel's letters from this period show a man desperately trying to protect a woman he loved while knowing he was powerless to do so. He wrote about men he didn't recognize lingering around his workplace, about conversations that stopped abruptly when he approached, and about the growing sense that he was being hunted. The second warning was more direct. Eleanor found a note slipped under her door written in crude letters. We know what you are. Stop or face the consequences. The paper smelled of tobacco and hatred, and Eleanor's hands shook so badly she could barely hold it long enough to read the words. It was then that Samuel made a decision that would haunt the family for generations. In his final letter to Eleanor, he wrote that he was leaving Georgia, heading north to Ohio where his uncle lived. He begged Eleanor to come with him, to abandon everything she had ever known for a chance at a life together where their love might not be a death sentence. But Eleanor couldn't leave. Her diary reveals the agonizing choice she faced. Go with Samuel and abandon her family forever, possibly die on the dangerous journey north, or stay and face whatever consequences awaited her alone. She was 19 years old, pregnant, and terrified, making a decision that no human being should ever have to make. The night Samuel was supposed to leave, Eleanor made her choice. She met him one last time at their cabin in the woods. According to her diary, they held each other and wept, knowing it would be the last time they would ever see each other. Samuel gave her a small wooden cross he had carved, telling her that no matter what happened, their love was blessed by God, even if it was cursed by man. But someone had been watching them. As Samuel prepared to leave that night, disappearing into the darkness toward the railroad tracks that would carry him north, Eleanor heard sounds that would echo in her nightmares for the rest of her life. The baying of hounds, the thunder of horses' hooves, and men's voices raised in the terrible excitement of a hunt. Samuel Washington never made it to the train. He was found 3 days later hanging from an oak tree 5 miles from town, his body bearing evidence of torture that the local newspaper declined to describe in detail. The official cause of death was listed as suicide, a cruel joke that everyone understood, but no one dared question. Thank you for staying with us this far. We truly appreciate your time and interest in this devastating story. We assure you that the most shocking revelations are still to come, and what you'll discover in the next chapters will completely astound you. Eleanor's world collapsed the morning she learned of Samuel's death. Her diary entry from that day consists of just one line repeated over and over. They killed him, they killed him, they killed him, they killed him. The ink is smeared as if by tears, or perhaps something darker. But Samuel's murder was just the beginning of a campaign of terror designed to erase not just him, but any evidence that their love had ever existed. Within a week of his death, strange things began happening to anyone who might have known about their relationship. The old woman who lived near the cabin where they met was found dead in her kitchen, supposedly of natural causes, though neighbors noted that her door had been forced open. The Methodist preacher who had been known to speak favorably of treating all God's children with kindness suddenly left town in the middle of the night, leaving behind only a hastily scrawled note saying he had been called to minister elsewhere. Most disturbing of all, Eleanor's closest friend, Mary Catherine Porter, who had suspected Eleanor's secret and had promised to help her through the pregnancy, disappeared entirely. One day she was there, and the next, her parents were telling anyone who asked that she had gone to visit relatives in Atlanta. But the train station clerk swore he had never sold her a ticket, and letters addressed to her in Atlanta were returned marked addressee unknown. Eleanor realized she was completely alone, carrying the child of a murdered man, surrounded by people who had made it clear that silence was the only thing standing between her and a fate similar to Samuel's. Her diary reveals the desperate plan she formulated. She would claim the child belonged to a traveling salesman who had promised to marry her but had abandoned her when he learned of the pregnancy. The lie worked partially. Eleanor's father was furious and threw her out of the house, but the community's reaction was disappointment rather than murderous rage. Unmarried pregnancy was scandalous but not fatal. Eleanor moved in with her aunt in the next county, where she could give birth away from prying eyes and wagging tongues. The baby was born in March 1893, a beautiful girl with Eleanor's green eyes, but with features that hinted at her mixed heritage. Eleanor named her Grace, hoping that God's grace would protect what man's hatred sought to destroy. But even as she held her daughter for the first time, Eleanor knew that the secret they represented would never be safe. The final entry in Eleanor's diary, written when Grace was 6 months old, reveals the ultimate price of their love. I have received word that I must give Grace away. They say that as long as she remains with me, we both remain in danger. There is a family in Tennessee, good Christian people who have agreed to take her and raise her as their own. They will never know the truth of her parentage. It is the only way to keep her alive. Tomorrow I will place my daughter in the arms of strangers and pray that she will forgive me when she stands before God. I will tell no one the truth, not even her, should we ever meet again. The secret dies with me. But Eleanor was wrong. The secret didn't die with her. It lived on in hidden letters and a forgotten diary, waiting over a century for someone to stumble upon the truth and finally tell the story of a love that society deemed worthy of death. The final revelation came not from Eleanor's diary or Samuel's letters, but from a document I found folded inside the wooden cross that Samuel had carved for Eleanor, the same cross that had been passed down through our family as a keepsake from an unknown relative. Inside the cross was a carefully folded piece of paper, protected from time and decay by the wood that surrounded it. On it was written the most shocking truth of all. Grace, the baby Eleanor had been forced to give away, was not lost to history. She had grown up in Tennessee as Grace Morrison, eventually marrying and moving to Kentucky, where she raised a family who never knew the truth of their grandmother's origins. Grace Morrison was my great-grandmother. This meant that the blood of Samuel Washington, a man murdered for crime of loving a white woman, flowed through my veins. The secret that had been buried for over 130 years was not just a piece of family history. It was a foundation of who I am. Every family gathering where we celebrated our pure European heritage was built on a lie designed to keep us alive in a world where the truth could have killed us. But there was more. Hidden in the cross was also a list of names, written in Samuel's careful handwriting. These were the names of the men who had murdered him, men whose families still lived in the same Georgia communities, their descendants walking the same streets where Samuel had died, completely unaware of their ancestors' crimes. The list included the sheriff, two prominent businessmen, a banker, and Eleanor's own uncle, men who had seen themselves not as murderers, but as protectors of a social order they believed God had ordained. They had killed Samuel not in a moment of passion, but as part of a calculated campaign to maintain white supremacy through terror. As I sat in that dusty attic, holding evidence of murder that had never been investigated, a love story that had never been told, and a family secret that had shaped generations without anyone knowing it existed, I realized that I faced the same choice Eleanor had faced 130 years ago: remain silent and let the secret die with me, or speak the truth and face whatever consequences that might bring. The difference was that I lived in a different world, a world where interracial love was not a crime punishable by death, where speaking the truth about historical injustices was not just possible but necessary. Samuel Washington's story, Eleanor Patterson's courage, and baby Grace's survival were not just my family's secret anymore. They were part of America's hidden history, a reminder of how far we had come and how much further we still had to go. In the end, Eleanor's prediction was both right and wrong. The secret didn't die with her, but it took over a century for it to find its voice. Samuel Washington was murdered in 1892 for loving a white woman, but his blood lives on in his great-great-great-grandchildren, who have the freedom to tell his story and honor his memory. The wooden cross now sits on my mantelpiece, no longer hiding its secrets, but proclaiming them. It reminds me daily that love is stronger than hate, that truth is more powerful than silence, and that sometimes the most important stories are the ones that take generations to tell. This story shows us how hatred and prejudice can destroy innocent lives and create secrets that haunt generations. It reminds us that behind every family tree lies stories of love, loss, and survival that shaped who we are today, even when we don't know they exist. Do you believe there are similar secrets hidden in your own family history? Have you ever discovered something disturbing about your family's past that changed how you saw yourself and your heritage? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might help others understand the complex mysteries that lie buried in all of our histories. If this shocking revelation impacted you as much as it did me, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell for more hidden family secrets and forgotten stories. And don't miss our next video. Subscribe to the channel and enter the placelet, and follow other stories so intriguing and frightening like this. Click on the screen to watch it now.